Hello everybody, John 12 back here again with another video, and I'm here to talk all things DC. Now, of course, Empire Magazine, the latest issue of Empire Magazine, has given us a lot of really inside look into what Batman v Superman's going to be all about, and of course, they interviewed Zack Snyder a lot about Batman v Superman, and of course, the extended DC universe, the shared film universe. We're basically splitting hairs. It's a cinematic universe, but we all know that, obviously Warner Brothers wants to be different from Marvel, and they want to do their own thing, and that's the main topic of what this interview was all about, and I'm basically just going to give you my brief, hopefully brief rundown and personal thoughts of what he had to say. Essentially, over at Empire, they asked Zack Snyder, so how will Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, The Flash, and the rest of the Justice League fit into this DC extended universe? How is it going to make up? And essentially, Zack Snyder was quoted in saying, what we are doing is ground up all the way. It is one giant story. The first thing we had was the Justice League concept. The other movies, in a way, have to support that. This is our Wonder Woman or our Aquaman. They have their own creative concepts that supports them, but they do serve Justice League in the coming together of those heroes. I want all the other directors of their other films to be able to stretch their legs and do what they want, but at the same time, there is a big interconnected universe. I have given everyone amazing access to our story, to me, and what we are doing. All the films have like-minded conceptual jumping on points. Meanwhile, Charles Roven explains basically the overall gist of what Warner Brothers is doing with the DC Universe, and what he calls it is they're basically looking at the DC Universe as a sandbox. Quoting him, Charles Roven, of course, and if you don't know who Charles Roven is, he's obviously the producer of all these DC movies. He produced, obviously, Chris Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. Essentially, he stated, we call it the sandbox. It has borders around it, but everybody gets to play in the sandbox. On Suicide Squad, David Ayer has a lot of specific control over his area of the sandbox. Even if he crosses the line a little bit, we see if we can push our boundaries back a little bit. And that's pretty much the general gist of how he explains how, every other director essentially has their own creative control of what they want to do with the movies, as we have seen what DC's doing. Essentially, DC is very director-driven. The movies and the solo movies specifically are filmmaker-driven. It's their creative vision of what they want these movies to do, but obviously, from what Zack Snyder's saying here, is that they obviously can do whatever they want with these movies, but they have to try and make that fit the template of what Justice League has to be. So essentially, it's them just explaining how their universe is going to be, and I like these comments that they had to say. Charles Roven and obviously Zack Snyder have an amazing idea of what they want this Justice League universe to be, and it's just really awesome to see that happen, because I love what Marvel did. What they did, they accomplished so much, and they just fucking, hit the fucking ball out of the park, and it was amazing to watch that happen. But now it's time to see something else happen with these other characters that we all know and love. We're in the comic book movie renaissance, and it's just good that we're having both mediums just basically take off and skyrocket. We have, our X-Men shared universe, we have this DC extended universe, and then we have the MCU. It's just a really good time to be a DC and Marvel and comic book fan overall, not to mention the various other comic book movies that are happening outside of these superhero movies. But that being said, I think these comments are awesome. I personally, really appreciate that Zack Snyder had to say something about it, because that's the big issue with this topic, especially with fans. It's like, and I don't want to go into the Marvel versus DC thing, but, Marvel has, been ahead all this time. They had a major head start with this whole universe. But I think the great thing about having DC start so late is that they have a good jumping off point of where they're going, because I think the beauty, at least in my perspective, the beauty of starting off so late in comparison to Marvel is that they got to see everything that Marvel did and kind of do their own thing with that. Just use what Marvel's plan is as a template to do what they want to do. Because essentially, I know they're kind of like splitting hairs here, but it's kind of like general gist. I mean, everybody has their own specific vision of what they want to do, but of course they have, the Kevin Feige, which I guess Zack Snyder is kind of playing in this, in the DC side. They have that kind of overhead who essentially looks over everything and tries to keep it in the same wavelength of what the inevitable outcome needs to be. Kind of like Phase 2. They need to make sure that whatever they do here, no matter what James Gunn does or whatever Payne Reed does with their movies, it has to stay in the same template of what Avengers is going to be later on, kind of like the Infinity Wars. That's why you have this amazing Infinity Stones and Thanos sets up in this freaking Phase 2, and that's how that leads into Phase 3. It's the same kind of thing. We're splitting hairs here, but it's essentially the same template, just done in a different way. Of course, DC is obviously making it much more creative visioned with their directors. A lot of people have qualms about that, but I have no qualms with it, because it's like, at the end of the day, if it gives us awesome, badass movies, then I'm all for it. I mean, like, I don't need everything to be like, oh, every movie needs to look exactly the same. It doesn't need to be like that. Like, look at Marvel. I mean, they have awesome movies, but I like the fact that they, took a chance on other directors that you wouldn't think would be good with their kind of movies. I mean, James Gunn, Guardians of the Galaxy, fucking awesome. Just recently with Payne Reed and freaking Ant-Man, the Russo brothers with Captain America. They took chances on those guys and they demolished. So I'm all for what DC's doing on their side. So at the end of the day, I love these comments. I can't wait to see what the DC Extended Universe unfolds and how it goes into all these various directions. I mean, I can't wait to see Batman Superman. I can't wait to see the Wonder Woman solo movie. I want to see the solo Aquaman movie, the solo Flash movie, Justice League, obviously. There's just a lot of movies that DC and Warner Brothers are trying to, pull out of the woodworks, and I want to see them. That's just the main point I want to get across. But hopefully you enjoyed what Zack Snyder said. Hope you enjoyed the Empire Magazine images. I'll probably have them slideshowing all throughout this video if you've not seen it already. But that being said, check out the comments. Let me know what you personally think about them in the comment section below. Subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already. Hope you guys enjoyed. This has been Chonk12.